to attend today can catch up afterwards. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Education and Outreach Quarterly Committee meeting. Today, we're going to be going over some of the bylaws that we've been proposing, talked about the Sustainable Materials Management Plan, you guys' phenomenal Sustainable Nevada website change, and then a couple other few exciting announcements, and I'll turn it over to Allie shortly. Just quickly, I want to start off this meeting discussing the bylaws that we sent out in our last newsletter last month. And again, these bylaws are really just getting more structure to this group, whatever, if they're called bylaws, rules, whatever, we're going to have that name going forward. But we did attach just the very draft, just bylaws. Bree Case did a lot of work researching other what nonprofits we're looking at, just other different various bylaws that different entities were utilizing, just to come up with a working draft. So there's nothing in these bylaws that can't change. It's all this just that first draft. What's going to be working well and what needs changing to be really personalized for this group moving forward. So there was the link in there for a survey to provide comments, either in favor, against, neutral. If you're just like, hey, I'm glad we're doing this, awesome. We love to hear any feedback, and that helps us keep moving on our end. We will be including that information coming out in our newsletter early next week. So you guys will have multiple times to take a look at those bylaws and make sure that they are going to be helpful for our group. All right, so the next little agenda topic we're going to be talking about today is the draft 2022 Sustainable Materials Management Plan. Bree Case is again going to do an open presentation this Friday, really going through the plan. What does the plan mean? What was the plan beforehand? Where is it going now? And being able to have an open dialogue and conversation about, again, just getting feedback. We will be taking this plan to the State Environmental Commission, ideally in December. So right now is a wonderful time to get comments in, so that way we're able to address concerns before we take it to the next step. She is asking that all written comments are due back by October 21st. If you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. But Allie, I will go ahead and turn it over to you now, unless anyone has any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Kayla. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy to see you all here. I think our first topic that we'd like to dive into is the website, because it's something that this group has been working really hard on for quite a while now. And unfortunately, Bree can't be here today. She's got a Employee Appreciation Day down in Vegas. So I'm going to take over for her. But she has uploaded all of the content that we have put together as a team onto the Nevada Recycles website. We are shifting that logo here soon as well with the PSN logo. I'm not sure who we have today that perhaps missed the E&O meeting where we went through the website and all the updated things. So if someone would like to chime in and let me know if you'd like me to go in depth a little bit on what the website looks like, or if perhaps you guys would prefer to delve into it on your own if you haven't had the opportunity to look at it yet. Just let me know. That way I can kind of be respectful of people's time. If it's not something that we really want to focus on going through page by page or anything like that, we can kind of move on to the next things in our agenda.
I recommend moving on and I know I would like to get into it on my own. That way I could spend more time and not have to worry about, whose time I'm taking. So that's my vote.
Thank you. Anybody else?
It does look very nice.
Thank you. Huge effort on everyone's behalf. Thank you for everyone who attended the meeting last week to go through all of the content and provide comments. Bree and I will be going through all of those and fine-tuning all of the content, going through the feedback, figuring out what still needs a little work, getting rid of some pages that are still outdated. So with that being said, without hearing anything else, we're going to kind of skim through the website. Please check it out. Feel free to email Bree or I if you find something that needs attention, because we definitely want to get this up and running to the best that we can. So we can't do it without you guys. So thank you for that. All right, so then we're going to move in here and we're going to introduce, we have Steve Arico here with Republic Services. He's going to be our new chair for the Education Outreach Committee. We're really excited to have him as a part of PSN. I think he's going to have a lot to offer for this group. And so with that, Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you. Just kind of let you introduce yourself.
Well, thank you very much, my friend. Hello, those of you that are here with us today. Thank you for allowing me this time to, number one, introduce myself. And I just want to thank you for inviting me in to participate in this organization. Very, very excited. So a little background on me. I've been in Las Vegas for 52 years, been with Republic Services for 9 years, and was just recently, a few months ago, elevated to the Community Relations Manager position. I have a great passion for our community and just looking forward to really getting involved. And you all know so much more about different things than I do. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot from you and guiding where I can, and of course, throwing my input as well. I'm the kind of guy that, like we talked about last week, I like to take something that might appear on the surface little, and let's just see how big we can make it. And I have a lot of community partners. I know a lot of people. And so I'm looking forward. I've already reached out to several of my business partners, through some other organizations that I'm involved with, that they also share a passion for sustainability and will support us in different events that we might do, just different outreaches that we might be able to participate in. So I'm just looking forward to just being a part of this team and offering what assistance I can and learning more from you guys and gals, and just want to say thanks. And
Absolutely.
I'm just a kid in an old man's body. So I guess the best way to sum it up, I'm just a little boy in an old man's body. So
I think you have a great personality for this type of role, Steve. We're really excited to have you. So, and Kim, are you on this call today, Kim Rios? No, okay.
Yes, welcome, Steve.
Oh, okay.
hey, hello.
Okay. I don't have you guys, I don't know
Hello.
if you guys have met yet or not, and my apologies for not connecting you two earlier through an email. So if this was a surprise to you today, Kim, I'm so sorry about that. And I will make sure that I introduce you guys after this call so that you have each other's contacts and we can kind of all get on the same page as we move forward with this committee.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
It's a great surprise.
Okay, good. It is a good surprise. That is true.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
well
you.
then with that being said, let's move on here a little bit. So like we talked about, website is up and running. Please delve into it when you can. With that, we kind of have some room now to bring on some extra projects and think about where we want to move into for community and outreach as far as PSN is concerned. So I'd really like to open it up to the rest of you to hear if you have some ideas on where you think this group should head next. And right now, it just can be collaborative. Any ideas or random thoughts that you have that you think we can just start collaborating a list, and there are no wrong answers or no wrong ideas.
Well, I am known for random thoughts, so we'll just throw
Bring it
that
on.
out there now. But for me, I would really like to, my thought was when you pulled up the website, is I'd like to kind of go through that and then see what's, I guess, those, for lack of a better word, like some of our mission statements, if you will, or it's like the different verticals, like residential and different things like that. And that way, I think that will spark some ideas in my head on what events could be tied into those specific categories. So that's one thing. And then I know we talked last week. I have a calendar events put out that, you tell me if it should go out to everybody, or I could send it to you and you could filter it out accordingly, of different events that I've already either committed to or have been solicited to attend, that maybe we could get involved in something like that, like some things like that. Um, I always look for opportunities to volunteer at these events. Some of them are paid events, and that's where I've talked to some of our community partners, some of the business owners and managers that I know, saying, look, if there's something that is coming out there that is an event, but it's a paid event, and you might want to participate in it, you could pay for it, and we'll kind of partner up on that. And I think as being part of this organization, as far as PSN, I think that gives these other businesses a lot higher level of exposure. So that's I mean, I don't think I know enough about the team and what the objectives might be, other than just getting out there. So that's what I would that's the next step I'll take, and like I said, and look around and then share some of the events. And then if anybody else has any other ideas, I'm open to that. I'm open to participating any way I can to help. And like I said, if there's anything that is, fund based, I don't know if we have a budget for things like that. I don't know, the ins and outs of that, but you can guide me along that way. And if it's something that says, hey, we'd love to participate in that, but it's $400, well, then I can go find somebody that'll pay $400 for us.
I love that. We're
For
always looking for
example.
people to find, to help us with funding. And I mean, right now we're not putting any funding yet into PSN as far as specific projects. Doesn't mean that it's not going to happen in the future, that we haven't already talked about it. It's certainly something that's on the table. And we have a lot of great partners. I know you haven't met yet, but we do have a lot of great companies and organizations that can come together and help if we have something that is worthwhile to put those funds into. So it's certainly something to keep on the table. I know Kayla had suggested to me last week as something for our group to look into would perhaps be a statewide curriculum. What we have now on NDEP's website as far as sustainability curriculum goes is very outdated, and we could really use some support to update and revamp that, to bring in more topics of sustainability that aren't just recycling, so that we can kind of dabble in those
I'll go ahead and jump here since it looks like,
Okay.
oh, there you are, Allie. Sorry, you froze at least on my end for a second.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that really gets back to, it's like, I know KTMB has a lot of curriculum that you guys get out into schools. Envirolution has another, set of curriculum. I know, like Republic Waste Management, again, everyone has a lot of these curriculums. How can we get together one, statewide? I don't know if we can get it somehow, certified in all the major school districts that has support really from all these different nonprofits and is able to touch on a multitude of topics. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel by any means, because it's KTMB. You guys have a phenomenal curriculum. Why would we want to go and redo any of that? But it's, and again, we get back to the whole reason why we're getting this partnership group together is with all these entities, they're doing a lot of wonderful work on their own. How can we bring everyone together and really get that partnership into these schools with like a statewide certified sustainability curriculum? So that's just an idea for feed there.
No, I like that. And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to look on our website for Republic Services. So, and to see, I mean, we have it. I mean, I think we start at second grade. We have it broken down second through fifth, sixth through, I think, eighth, and then high school. And it is comprehensive. And I know CCSD, I've met with them. I know they have, Derek Herndon is their sustainability manager, if you will, and I've communicated with him, and so we can look at that and get that out, or maybe take little pieces of that and put that together. So I mean, it's extremely comprehensive, and even though it goes back, I think the last time we updated was 2019. I've checked with our corporate people, and they said everything is still updated, everything is still pretty current. I think one thing we want to, as we're doing that, I think one thing to be mindful of is, sustainability means different things sometimes to different people and different organizations, even different parts of the state. So if we're going to come from it from a very high level, like an overview, there might be some things that we really want to make sure that we, point out or differentiate, if you will. And then, so that's that part of it. But now, are you familiar with the organization, and excuse me if this is a silly question, Get Outdoors Nevada? Okay, so, I mean, they are always doing like cleanup projects. There's a cleanup there's always different cleanup projects going on that we get solicited to provide like roll-offs for. and then whenever we do that, like LVMPD just had National Night Out, and they have all these trick or treat things. So if those are things that we want to get involved with as PSN, just to have a presence, if those are some things we're looking at, I mean, that is something that's very, very easy to do.
Definitely. Yeah, and Kim, I see your hand's been raised for a while. Just, yeah, hop on in.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what that
You're
means.
fine.
Okay, I mean, sorry. I thought you were waving, saying hi. Yeah, all right, all right.
Oh,
You're
you're
on
still on
mute.
mute, Kim. Well,
Kim, you're on
still
mute.
on mute. Let me see if it's on our end.
Oh, there we go.
There.
Sorry.
Okay, good. Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, so I also wanted to kind of chime in and well, one, address your comment about creating a curriculum, and I'm glad you said that you wanted to find ways to maybe also amplify some of the work that's already being done regionally. So I'm definitely open to exploring options for that and bringing these lessons maybe up to the state level without really recreating the wheel. And I think that also takes us back to identifying educational gaps and resources throughout the state and different communities and what's available where and then what's missing. And on that note, I also wanted to mention that way back when we were first starting this committee and we had come up with the idea of developing the website, we'd also talked about developing some kind of social media presence as well to help gain more exposure to the group as well as help with our spread. And so I think another good next step is to start to think about how we can bring more face and light to this organization. How can we bring people to our website? When is that appropriate? How often should that be happening? And identifying those different avenues for outreach, whether it is through some kind of social media outlet. Because I know you mentioned that once the website is up and running, sending out a press release, I think, is a great first step. But then we kind of have to keep going and finding ways to make it, just a reoccurring thing so that it's continuing to be utilized. Because the last thing I'd like to see is having this wonderful resource available and not getting the exposure, and not having people even be aware that this is available.
I'm very glad that you brought that up, Kim, because you're right. When we developed the menu of options, that the two main things that this group is going to focus on was the website, and then once that was completed, the next phase was social media. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
And to piggyback off of that as well, Kim, Bree and I are going to start. Once the website is officially good to go, 110% feeling good, we're going to set a schedule where her and I are constantly checking, keeping things up to date, making sure links are still relevant. So perhaps in that schedule, her and I can talk about, maybe it's once a month or whatever on that social media platform, we're just highlighting that website as a resource again. So it's kind of at the top of the feed at the beginning of every month as people visit our social media platforms. And with that being said, we also have a press release that's probably about 80% done. So we're certainly still moving along with that idea as well. All right, anybody else have some thoughts in particular to statewide curriculum or education, or perhaps some other ideas on just what they'd like to see this committee do for education and outreach in regard to PSN and focus on sustainability in Nevada? Don't be shy.
Hi, Ellie. This is Mark Hornick with Carson City Schools.
Hi.
I think with curriculum, you have to be really careful. It's not, you can't just write something and say, I'm going to teach this.
Right.
You have to, where do you want to focus on getting that information to? If you want this to be in a school, a curriculum that's in a school or a school district, you have to go through the Department of Education. And you also have to meet standards. You can't just write something and say, I'm going to teach this. So, and that's a lengthy process. And, Envirolution has gone through that process. Um, they have people writing curriculum that have done it within a school district. They know what the standards are and what exactly what you're talking about meets what standard. Whether it could be second grade, fourth grade. I mean, energy is fourth grade, right? Biomimicry, second grade. Anything that you want to talk about within that, you have to meet that standard. So I think that's going to take a little bit longer. I don't think you want to jump into that and just throw something out there. I think you need to get education people involved with that somehow in some kind of subcommittee and take a look at it. And I am not a formal educator, but I am married to one. So I know a lot about that side of it, but I don't know how to write curriculum. So just a word of caution, how you go ahead with that and where you want it to be, where you want it to sit. If you're just talking about, teaching the public a couple things, I'm sure you could throw something out there, or at least Kim in KTMB, they have things like that too. And I'm not sure, Kim, if you've gone through all the rigors of meeting standards and all that kind of stuff, then you'd probably know. But it's tedious and it's tough to do. So.
And you're right, Mark. I haven't done it personally, but you're right. I know other educators who've gone through that process, and yeah, Envirolution has an amazing program. Just looking at the end of the day, would a statewide curriculum bring all these educators together and get teachers more excited, knowing that they have multiple partners that are essentially supporting this curriculum statewide? That's just an idea. How do we continue to promote sustainability in schools? Would a statewide curriculum that's supported by the state, these nonprofits, private businesses, because I know you guys do like a lot of work, I believe with Tesla and some other locations, would having a kind of a blanket program for the state be attractive?
I would think so. Yeah. And I think it would be attractive to teachers because they just want it. They're out there and they want it, and they can't always teach certain items because it doesn't meet a standard. It might meet a standard, but it's not been proven to, or whatever. It's not been officially made, right? So
Yeah.
I think it would probably be helpful to talk through it with professional curriculum writers and see what that's going to take.
Yeah. Because
I think I
okay.
love the website. I think it's awesome. I mean, when I first came over, I just sat and read it for about an hour, and it's the best thing I've seen regarding that statewide. So,
Awesome.
but as far as curriculum, yeah, that'd be a good idea to get some professionals together, and then people like KTMB and Envirolution and those other folks that are on the perimeter of all of that too, and have some experience in it. To talk through it.
Yeah, because it's like you said, it's going to be, if it's going to be attractive to teachers at the end of the day, that's everyone's goal. And the idea of, this whole partnership group is, how do we get these large, that's a huge project we're talking about, statewide curriculum. That's not going to happen probably within even a year or two. But that's something that we can bring everyone together on and have a meaningful project that's going to make a difference. That's the kind of things that we want to really start focusing on. And kind of getting back to like the funding of this, if we can, get some kind of like bylaws or structure set to this, because eventually we want PSN to be its own either nonprofit or offshoot or something, so they can take in funding themselves. Now we can get funding into schools through this curriculum mechanism. There's like the green box program, some other type deals that a lot of this has been done. How do we now amplify that, make that statewide, and really get to teachers in a way that's meaningful for them? So I think that's where all of our ideas were stemming from, just what's actually going to make a difference that people are asking for.
Right. And I think if you pull all those together, different things together, go into one spot, go into one website to get green box information or to get this information, et cetera, that meet the standards, that would be a super resource for them. So they're not going everywhere to try to find it. Go to one spot. It's a good idea. Great idea.
I personally, this is Tara at Recycling and UNLV. I think that the one of the most powerful ways one of the things that teachers like more than having something else that they're supposed to teach, which even though I agree 100% with them teaching sustainability and recycling and waste management, is field trips. They always seem to want those, and I can't think of a better field trip than to the MRF. And I know a lot of nonprofits, I know Friends of the Wetlands Park, their whole goal is just to get funding to get CCSD field trips to the Wetlands Park. Because once they get them there, they can teach them about the biodiversity of the area, the water management, and teachers really like field trips. So if there's a way to find funding to fund, I don't know what the equivalent is up in the north, but field trips to Public Services MRF, I think that would have a big impact on those kids, because it is impressive to see, and you get firsthand knowledge on what is and isn't recyclable. And we have a really bad contamination problem in our curbside programs. And hopefully they go home and teach their parents how to do it. So I think that's the most powerful thing for students.
Yeah, to have like a centralized area to come in and say, hey, what field trips are available? Where can we go? What funding? But just this one really honestly excites me. I'm trying to stay neutral about it, just out of the way. But there's, I think, a lot of opportunity. So sorry to cut you off, Steve. Go ahead.
No, that's good. So in that regard, so not with the students, but with the teachers through Desert Research Institute, when I first got this role, I met with Craig Rosen over there, and there was something, the field trip was followed the waste stream. And I don't know if you've heard of that before, if you're familiar with that, but we were looking at trying to reincorporate that. And then Joseph Jolly, who's the environmental manager, the recycling manager for Mandalay Bay, he's a great partner. They're a great partner with Republic Services. They have an annual event that focuses around America Recycles Day, where they do a lot of things as well. And they're great partners. So, trying to do field trips when you have 330,000 students, that's a bit encumbersome, right? Bit large of a project. But if we could focus on the teachers and get them out there, because from what Craig Rosen said, the teachers love that. And speaking to everybody's point, it was a very, very popular program, and it wasn't that expensive at all. RTC got involved and they donated a bus and things like that. So that's something that I think we could do. As far as reaching the youth of our community, one avenue is I just did a tour of the MRF with one of our city councilmen, and he's very heavily involved with the Boy Scouts. And so he was talking about, reaching out to the Boy Scouts and setting up tours with the MRF through that, because I agree, you teach the kids, they'll teach the parents. So again, like I don't know who that gentleman was before, Mark. So right when you're trying to get something into the school district like a formal curriculum, right? It's I can only imagine the immensity of that chore. But I think there's a lot of other ways we could reach out to the community and educate, which is part of what my main goal is in my role, is what other, youth activities are out there that we could reach out to and teach them that way, and provide literature and resources for them through other avenues. So that I think might be the path of least resistance for us. Because there's a ton of youth organizations out there, and then that is something that, could easily be statewide, in my humble opinion.
I love that. This is a great, we have a great list going already.
That's,
Yeah, and Steve, I agree with that. I mean, there's tons of stuff out there, and the content itself may meet standards. You know what you're talking about. It's just curriculum is like pulling it all together into a package.
yeah.
And so if we're talking curriculum in schools, you got to meet that in a certain way. But programs like you were talking about are super valuable because they're right up people's alleys, things they see every day.
Well, they are, and thank you for that. And those types of things are easier to get funding for through different business partnerships. I can go to ABC company and say, look, we're going to be setting up these 10 tours or whatever with the Boy Scouts. We need X amount of dollars to provide lunches or whatever. Who doesn't want to be affiliated with that? There's so many business partners that I have that I've already talked to said, look, you're going to get so much coverage and you get to be the good guys because I just want to be in the background, and so that, that could go a long way. And I love doing turfs or tours at the MRF, and we have our recycling coordinator, Celinda, who is phenomenal. We could take them to the landfill, and I got to tell you, you know, people don't think the landfill is being sustainable, right? But at our landfill, when we're converting methane gas, to electricity and doing things like that for the community, and also, providing CNG for a lot of our trucks. I mean, that is something that a lot of people don't really understand. And I think, that ties in really, really well with sustainability. And we have an upcoming project next year that we kind of talked about, that as we move closer to that, we can get that involved, as far as sustainability goes. But I think there's a lot to it. We can go out to the pig farm here, and with the food docs, what they do with all that. And Joseph Jolly, like I said, he's a great partner. This man, he like all of you, and I know I just met you, but I can sense just from those of you that have spoken and the passion that, you know, you're doing this because it's the right thing to do, right? And when we can align ourselves with other business partners that believe as much as we do that things have to be done. Not that they should be done, but they have to be done. And then they have the willingness to say, what can I do to help? Those are the people we want to tap into, right? And that's how we make this again. And again, and I said this last week. So those of you that weren't on the call, I'm a big boy, so you can feel free to say, Steve, that's not really a good idea, or that might not work, because sometimes I get, again, it's that mentality that, okay, we're going to do this, but, oh, I see visions, and I don't want them to become visions of grandeur. I want them to become visions of reality. So sometimes you might need to keep me in check a little bit, and I'm okay with that. That's all.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having big ideas, and that's why we have these meetings, so that we can have big ideas and then kind of pull each other back a little bit, see it from different perspectives, people who have different jobs or different experiences who can speak to those types of things and give feedback and be like, well, it sounded like a good idea, but actually once we get it going, maybe feasibility funding, or, like the statewide curriculum, getting that into a classroom, that's not feasible for us, and that's just too much of a hurdle. What can we do that will still make us successful, because we want that. So, but nothing wrong with big ideas.
Thank you. So
Sure.
next question, being the new guy. I know not everybody's in the south, south of the state in Las Vegas area, but um, who is? I mean, has this has there ever been like a, for lack of a better word, like a conference, like an annual where everybody's been able to go to, like, meet and have like a 1 or 2 day conference or something like that? I mean, if not, I think there's tremendous value to that. I just hosted the Idaho Solid Waste Association, their fall tour. And that was in conjunction with one of our municipal sales managers in Boise, and they just came down. They brought 35 people, and if, they had, one of their, community partners, there's several of them that help pay for it, but we took them around. We toured the landfill, the pig farm, the MRF, the food dock. They went up to, Beatty. We arranged a tour of US Ecology, which is our hazardous waste landfill up there. I mean, I think there's tremendous value to, trying to plan something like that so we could become, I mean, these meetings are great, but when you actually get to interact with people and spend that time, that
Yeah.
cohesiveness just, you can't buy that. You can't
It's so
buy that.
true. Kayla, I'll let you chime in on that one if you want. I'm fairly new in my position, so PSN was kind of already in the works when I started my position, and I know that there was a PSN meeting, an in-person meeting towards the beginning of its growth. And I know it's something that we have discussed, doing again, just because it is hard. These meetings, they can be hard. When you meet people in person, it kind of reignites that spirit. And we need to keep the spirit going if we want to be successful. But we don't have anything planned yet. But Kayla, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Absolutely. Yes, we did have an in-person meeting just with the chair and co-chairs this past March. Since we started in August of 2021, we were kind of coming out of COVID, didn't really know what was happening with the world. So I will let you know, we are starting to discuss how can we do this, looking at maybe something, an event like next spring or summer. What would that look like? Again, right now it's funding. How do we get funding for this group is really my biggest struggle that I've been trying to tackle lately. So trying to get any of that structure, and so we can start accepting funding and then start paying for these different events. Because you're right, and in person is something that we've had requested from honestly numerous people. We're just trying to figure out the logistics. So for example, most of the PSN has been covered by NDEP's budget. Well, some of the food and other things that we were doing back in March, it was covered by the other partners participating. And the reason is because we're not allowed as state agencies to, I guess it's like a quote unquote like bribe or provide certain, we can't pay for certain things, such as in food, unfortunately, is one of them. And so we're trying to figure out how do we make this work without, constantly asking for how do we, I can't always go ask all these different nonprofits to pay for their own meal coming to an event that we're, trying to put on. So that's really where the bylaws and structure come into play. And, maybe we need to force this into a nonprofit or some kind of standalone entity sooner so we can start accepting funding and putting on these events. So that's a little bit, it's the back end stuff that I've been trying to figure out on my end. But I guess, yeah, long-winded story short, we are trying to see that the feasibility of doing an in-person event, both in the north and south. It's due time.
So someone's got their hand raised, then I'd like to comment after whoever has their hand raised, if I may. I think someone's got their hand raised.
Yeah, that's Linda.
Hi, this is Linda. Just one idea that may or may not have already been discussed or on the list. I just want to throw out that the Nevada Museum of Art, I believe, is already a partner with the state on education, and they host the annual STEAM conference. They have monthly educator evenings. They're dialed in that way. And as a docent myself at the Nevada Museum of Art, I can tell you that we have often exhibitions because the museum's focus is art and the environment. There's almost always an exhibition up that children are coming through, learning about. And right now, as an example, there's an exhibit on water, and that whole conversation surrounding water resources and issues with water, where they come from, where it's lacking, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to throw that out there as an idea.
I like it.
Yes, thank you, Linda.
So, getting back to, like funding and stuff like that. or again, not knowing, we get like, I don't want to say like sell a sponsorship, but could we have different businesses sponsor? Like if we said, okay, this is what we're gonna do, these are gonna be the costs, because, you know, as you know, I'm involved with IREM as the program chair and things like that. So we have all these different events, and then we sell sponsorships, you know, 2,500, 2,000, 1,000, you know, to help pay for the cost. And of course, they get to come up and hand out the awards or whatever, or just get the recognition of supporting the organization. Is that something that we're allowed to do?
At the end of the day, what bank account would that money be held in? I can't put it in a state account. So it'd have to be, we could run it through like a separate nonprofit account. You know, figuring out what that means. So like, let's say we're going to sponsor a 2-day conference and we need to pay for, you know, the conference room and meals. We can get sponsorships, but where am I going to collect that money and hold it to then pay the conference facility? That's the hurdle that I've been working on for 5 or 6 months now, and we'll get there. We will get there.
Okay, so let's think outside the box a little bit in this. Okay, so let's say we're gonna have a conference at ABC Hotel, and the rooms and the food, the conference room, whatever like that, gonna be $3,000. ABC company pays directly to that hotel the $3,000. And then they get recognized on all our collateral that, you know, and then if we want to go out to a fancy dinner, whatever, then XYZ company pays that restaurant the cost for that. And again, they get recognized on our collateral as dinner sponsored by XYZ company.
Yeah, that's
that-
certainly, yeah, if the hotel or, you know, wherever the conference center is able to kind of split it up that way, that might be a workaround.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I'll run that by our legal team and see what they say. Because we're very strapped with, because it's everything here is, you know, I don't want to move money around it, coming to very, very touchy things. I want to make sure everything's very transparent. So I know the
Yeah,
state gets
absolutely,
very concerned with
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That might be an
Because
option though.
thank you. Because we could find some money.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
All right, team. Any last thoughts? Let's open up the floor here and get some last thoughts, comments for any projects or ideas that we want to see thought out a little more for our group. Where do we want to go next? Anything that we want to branch off away from education? Is there something else in the community you want to focus on? I know KTMB does a lot of like multi-language, bilingual type of education. Is there, you know, there's a million different ways we can go. So, and you know, it doesn't have to be today. We can think about wrapping up this meeting here in a few minutes, and for the sake of time. And if you guys would like, you can email Bree, myself, or Kayla. But Bree and I will be doing a lot of the education and the outreach going forward. And you can start getting those ideas to us, and then we can start condensing them, rolling them up to Kim and Steve so that we can all organize something and move forward. So chime in if you've got anything.
Just something that you just mentioned, I think that's very, very important. I'm glad you mentioned it, is I think we really want to be mindful about multilingual or bilingual messaging. You know, I think that's very, very important. You know, I don't know how far we take that. I don't know how many different languages we should make available, but I think that I think that's very important. I think you know, that's very smart point, very smart point.
I know KTMB has done a lot of that already, and you know, specifically, they've talked about doing signs for illegal dumping and making sure that's posted in different languages. And I mean, it could be anything sustainability related, that if you're out there speaking with the community or handing information out to people, certainly something we want to keep in mind. But all right, well, I'm not hearing anybody else chiming in, so I think we're gonna get ready to wrap it up here. Kayla, do you have any last comments or things that we need to add before we let people go?
I don't think so. I think we're good. A lot of
All right.
exciting things coming up. You guys have done a great job. I mean, the Sustainable Nevada website, we have received so many compliments over. So you guys did just a phenomenal job. I really can't say that enough.
It's really true. It came out really well. And next time you guys talk to Bree, give her a high five, because she did a lot of work getting all that stuff up on the website. So, all right, well, I'll let you guys go. Everybody have a great day. Feel free to email me or Bree if you have any last minute ideas that you didn't get in, and we will talk to you all soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Allie. Thanks,
you.
Kayla.
Bye now.
Yes,
Bye,
bye.